A lot of people come to us and they have already come to an agreement with regard to everything and just want a lawyer to document their agreement. That is an uncontested divorce. A lot of people think that uncontested divorce means we want to be divorced. Well, that's not uncontested. There's a lot of issues that you haven't talked about yet. There's a lot of things that you probably aren't going to agree on, but you agree you want to be divorced. That's not uncontested. That is often a contested divorce. If you and your spouse really are in agreement on everything and you believe everything's going to be uncontested, that is a pretty short timeline in a family law case. You can file your petition, you can have your agreement written up and a divorce decree finalized, and that could be as quick as 60 days. That's the minimum amount of time that it takes to get a divorce in Texas. So if you've got it all together, if you know what you want and there are no disputes, we can honestly get you divorced in a little over 60 days. So a lot of people want to have an uncontested divorce because they believe that it is quicker, they believe it is cheaper, but that may not be the best choice for you. I would caution you to think about whether you really know all that you need to know before you agree to an uncontested divorce. I see a lot of people that say, I just don't want to fight, I don't want to spend a lot of money, and my spouse is saying, let's do it this way, and they just roll over and say, okay, sure, we'll do it your way. And that sounds reasonable, but you don't know what you don't know. So I really advise people to talk with an attorney first, find out what you might be entitled to that might be different from what your spouse is saying. Find out if that really is an equitable resolution to your assets and liabilities, to what's going to happen with the kids, before you take that step of agreeing to an uncontested divorce. Because once you've agreed, once that document is signed, that final decree is signed by you and signed by a judge, it's really hard to change things after the fact. So if you and your spouse have come to agreements on everything and you are just going to document everything and go to the court and ask them to sign off on it, you really want to talk with a lawyer to make sure that what has been documented is something that a court is going to accept. A lot of times people say, well, they're going to come up with this great agreement. It's workable for them, but a judge may not like the agreement. In Texas, if you go through a mediation process, you can document your agreement through mediation and a judge can't change it. So don't think that skipping mediation is always the best choice, because if you're doing anything that's out of the ordinary, especially with regard to kids, if you're not going to have any child support payable, if you are going to have a crazy possession schedule, then a judge may not like that. And you can agree to it, you can do whatever you want, but make sure you document that in a mediated settlement agreement, and then the judge will have to accept what you and your spouse have agreed to. So if you've started out with your divorce and you think that everything is agreeable and you're going to be uncontested, it's going to be quick, it's going to be easy, sometimes that's not always the case. At any point, your divorce can become contested at any point before it's final. So you may think that you have started out, you've got great agreements, everything is going well, and you hit a roadblock. All of a sudden, either something happens or you thought you had an agreement and you didn't. That divorce is, in the court's eyes, it's contested until it's done. So at any point, unless you've been to mediation and signed a mediated settlement agreement, or the court has signed off on the end, you can change your mind. So, and that happens a lot in divorce. People think that they have agreements and often they don't. If you have any questions about an uncontested divorce, please reach out to us at the DeFord Law Firm.